Well, I mean, obviously, the only way to not lose is win.
But you're just
not
wanting to
losing is the
avoid
motivation. I hate to lose.
That sounds horrible.
I don't want to. If I beat you, I don't feel better than you.
Yeah.
I was better than you at this time.
But if I beat you.
But if you beat me, you're better than I am.
Okay.
And I can't stand that.
Oh no.
So
it was hitting at your identity.
It was really getting to me.
All right, then throw your cord back behind you. Because we don't have somebody that's here to take care of those things for us yet. We're not paying up.
That's right.
We need an intern. That's what we're describing.
I could work on that.
I
could find an intern.
Isn't that like, don't you pay them an experience though? So it has to be useful. So I think we need to get rid
we know all kinds of
need a couple
homeschoolers.
Oh gosh.
That is perfect for a homeschooler. Don't you think?
I do actually. I do. Yeah. That would be amazing if we had
I would have been an intern.
A very socially awkward child. There's like 16 in here.
Homeschoolers are not all socially awkward.
That's not true. That's not true.
That is true.
You can't blanket statement like
we were fun kids.
Oh yeah, that's to be clear. To be clear, you can be super awkward and be a lot of fun. That's me and all of my friends forever. Like everybody I know. I'm not dissing anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against people who are awkward. However, the truth is if you're not around hundreds of children who mercilessly make fun of you all the time, how do you know how to act?
You're yourself. And
right, that's crazy. That's insane.
The best.
People just out there doing that.
Yes, 100%.
I know.
Yeah,
but also, you got.
There are some socially not acceptable things that we do when we were homeschooled, but at the same time, I mean, you're brave and you do things just because you like them.
Yeah,
I love it.
I
That's why we need an intern.
Think that like a really, really awkward high schooler would be the perfect addition to this podcast. I'm serious about that. Perfect. I'm just not going to.
We're taking applications. If you believe that you are the socially awkward person for this podcast. If you can be honest about being awkward.
If you can say, it's me.
It's me. Guy. I love learning.
Dungeons and Dragons. I have a Star Trek spaceship model collection. I can make you a list. How many animes do you know about? If you know about a lot, the more anime, the better.
Or if you are a girl who has only ever thought that she would do teaching or anything else like that, and you want to try something else that could teach you a bunch of creative tasks, and you would be hired in a minute after being our intern.
Hired in a minute.
Honestly.
That's a great promise for a podcast about jobs. Hired in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking to a current middle school social studies teacher who is my brother. I taught with him, next to him for a while at the same school. They hired us both.
Wow.
That was fun. There were two. He was Coach Lyles, and I was Mr. Lyles. And that's how we did that, because I was not. Nobody was going to mistake me for coaching anything. So,
that's hilarious.
I was one of those awkward homeschool kids.
Wow.
I did take athletic leadership in college, and I was a certified middle and high school athletics coach. But I did not renew that because...
But do you love sports?
I do not love sport. I ran cross country 1 year.
Okay. Why did you take that class?
Because I needed an elective. And
okay.
I thought they might hire me if I could coach stuff, and it didn't. They knew.
Do you know this? Do you know the rules of the games though? Like, do you understand when you're watching the games?
I love nothing more. This is not going to surprise you. So David.
Yes.
As you guys are going to find out, has coached football, basketball, wrestling. He's gotten around.
Wow.
And he would let me read the rule book. And that's my favorite thing, to find the crazy little rules. Did you know that C-Team girls basketball has no minimum number of players? Like, you don't lose two and they're like, well, we got to forfeit because you can't have 5 versus 3 or 6 versus... No, they'll keep playing.
What
down
the
to
heck?
One 12-year-old girl versus the entire other team. You can do it. You don't have... There's no, like, we got to have this many people. That's insane.
But you love to just read the rules of the game?
Now I want to see the Disney movie where one girl has to keep playing because the other ones all got took out. And
well, you will also not be surprised to hear that I had never witnessed any games, like any in person.
They have sports in Spain.
Okay, they have sports.
They have soccer, football.
Yes, but they're expensive to go to these.
They don't have like high school, like
no. I mean, maybe
playgrounds.
I mean, people play like at the rec center, but but our family didn't. And so we didn't. And so I watched football movies, like just everybody, there's football movies around the world. And I used to think that football, where they always do that close up of like the helmet to helmet and they're like growling at each other. Like that was part of football. I literally thought, no. I thought that was like part of the rules of football. You're supposed to like make mean faces at each other. That's not a rule.
Okay, but it's definitely
and then I went to a football game.
Required part. I mean, it's going to happen.
Okay, but listen to this. Then I went to a real football game when I came to college. And of course, I'm a freshman, so I'm in the nosebleeds.
Right.
And they look like ants. There is no way you can see them growling at each other,
Yeah.
And then... So I don't know if that's actually happening. And then they run really, really hard at each other and they go like 2 feet. I'm like, what? This is the game? Where's the music? Where's the the sweat rolling off their brow?
You mean like the orchestral soundtrack?
Yes, like from the movie. I had no idea.
Where's Denzel Washington to tell these kids how they gotta understand each other?
I had no idea. It was so boring.
So David Lyles will be here, and we're going to talk to him about his job on Job Smarts, which is no longer coaching, and he has seen Remember the Titans more than anyone that you'll ever meet. They do yell at each other, and they bump their helmets to each other.
You would never know.
You can grab the helmet.
People
not from
in real world, you would never know that actually happens from the nosebleeds.
Not from the upper deck. No, you can't see that. And they can't get the camera. But think about it. They don't have room for a camera in between the players. Like, how would you?
Why do they not have cameras nowadays?
That's a great question.
If that's part of the game.
It's part of the movie. Nobody said that it was part of the game. Oh gosh. Okay. David Lyles, Job Smarts.
Yeah, I don't have a short temper. Like I'm not one of those short fuse people. But once it gets to the fuse,
so
it goes very quickly.
It's like those diesel engines that just burn until they explode. Yeah.
Which that's how men have died for millions of years and will continue to till the end of time.
It's a learned skill to cook it like that, I think. Hey, welcome to Job Smarts.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Sorry you logged your keys in your car this morning. That blows. That sucks.
That is okay because I have somebody bailing me out.
Perfect.
So that is something I need quite often.
Perfect. Shout out to the Pickens County Law Enforcement.
Well, can't wait to hear what your job is.
So I am a South Carolina history teacher to 8th grade middle school students.
So to be clear, you are a teacher in South Carolina that teaches history.
Correct.
To children.
About South Carolina.
And the history is about South Carolina because I'm pretty sure every state has state history.
Yes.
Do they?
Well, I know Georgia does.
Like,
so I'm assuming the other 48 do as well.
Okay, but I thought that every state would have a gift shop when you went in like over the state line with like T-shirts with their logo. Some states don't. They don't care. Like Maryland has the weird like the pattern and the crab, and Texas has the star, and we have that palmetto tree. And that's anyway. I don't know. I know that some states have a state history class. I had never thought about
that. I just assumed they did.
I'd be interested to find out, but we do in South Carolina.
We do,
and you got to spend a whole year learning about all kinds of stuff in there.
So. And I enjoy the content. I really do enjoy the material. I taught English first, and I really enjoyed teaching English, but I find the response from the kids is much better in history than it was in English.
Interesting.
Less reading and writing, more of just listening to me, and then taking, I guess, more traditional tests.
Okay.
It's a lot easier to get a kid fired up and interested in, like, George Washington or Paul Revere.
So you're in a program to be a doctor of education.
Correct.
Which is the best way to get a raise when you're a teacher, because that's the only way you get a raise other than doing it for
Already got my master's.
Good job.
I'll get a plus 30 bump at the beginning of next school year.
So is it typical for teachers to keep getting more degrees?
A lot of, part of the reason that it's important to me to do this is my wife and I have prayed about it, but she wants to stay home and be a homemaker and homeschool our children and just be... I call her all the time at the house Laura Ingalls. That's what we're going for.
That's sweet.
And so for me, it was very important to get an increased salary.
Gotcha. Being
the only income. A lot of teachers, will have desires to get into administration. You have to get additional certifications and degrees for that. You have to get endorsed to do like advanced classes or GT classes or AP. you can be national board certified. If you get your master's, you get a raise. If you get master's plus 30, you get a raise.
I was gonna say all those other ones don't necessarily come with more money, or do they all like?
A national board does. And I also think a lot about something my grandpa said, which was, and this is somebody, I tell my students this every year. He dropped out in like the 4th grade in like 1940, 41, and worked on a cotton farm and then joined the Army and then came home and had 100 different jobs and was great at all of them and made a really good living.
Okay.
And I tell everybody that there's a huge difference between educated and intelligent. Those are two completely separate things. I am very educated and had to write a paper. I could not rebuild your transmission. I don't know how to do that because I'm not educated in that. My grandpa was the smartest person, the most intelligent man I've ever met. He wasn't educated, but he was so intelligent. And so that's a big difference. And a lot of higher education is learning how to be a student. It's not necessarily learning
The content.
information.
Right.
Do you think that most people in your program are having that experience? Like most other doctoral, once you get to that point, like do you think that's,
I mean, I think a lot of that rests on, do you enjoy writing?
yeah.
Like, do you just enjoy, formulating sentences and, experimenting with words and your vocabulary? I enjoy all of those things. If you didn't enjoy that,
You gotta do
this
it
would
all
not be
anyway,
fun.
yeah.
This would be miserable.
It does get writing heavy, that's for sure.
But the reason I said that about Pa, something he said a ton to me, and I'm sure he did to you too, was that, you may be intelligent, but you could lose that one day. Your mind could fail. Nobody ever take your education away. You get that degree, that's yours. Nobody will ever take that. And
I like how you went into like a, yeah.
I was trying to not start crying talking about Pa, so I had to get angry.
Yeah.
That's my default, to stop crying, get angry. But the older I get, and more I think about him and things that really matter, it will be very good to know, hey, I've got that. I did that. It's on the wall. I can have people call me doctor, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
Raise your hand on an airplane when they ask if there's anybody.
But I will not have my middle schoolers call me doctor. They can still call me Mr. Laws.
Call you Dave, right?
D-Money.
Definitely my favorite person ever. Yeah. Your grandpa. Our grandpa.
Tell us about a day in the life.
I make my day as routine and structured to be consistent as I can. I turn all my lamps on. I turn my lights off. Get my coffee going.
So you turn the overhead lights off.
Yeah, so I use lamps.
Okay, I like it.
I have migraines and have had for, I guess, like 20 years now. And fluorescents do not help that.
No. Also, it calms the children down.
So, yeah, and I've got about probably a
In my
half dozen
experience,
spread around the room. And that, it does. It really just changes the atmosphere of the room. That's what you did, too, I think.
I love
wasn't it?
lamps. I love lamps.
I did the same thing when I was a teacher.
That big light people talk about, that's no good.
Yeah, turn it off.
I actually had these, because I had fluorescent lights, didn't know about lamps yet. Yeah, you get these covers and they go over the fluorescent bulbs and make them like a normal color for light inside and not that blue, green kind
Oh,
of.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
I've never used them.
I had to have a certificate from the fire marshal that said that was okay because
Oh, yeah.
you're not
of
supposed to
course.
put stuff on your lights, but they said I could. So I don't know if you.
It literally changes
use
how
them, so.
children behave in my classroom.
Well,
Back
and
when I was a teacher.
you used to could have done that because everybody would be writing on paper, but all the kids have Chromebooks, which are backlit, so
and
you
they
don't
can
need as much
They
extreme
can see
lighting.
a lot better than us old.
I'm also reminded of
You
that
know?
regularly.
Yeah.
So-
It has to be so structured that it's not fun.
Do you guys know about Merv?
I have never
know
heard
about Merv?
that name.
Okay.
Merv Griffin?
All right. I don't know if this is useful to anyone ever or not, but it's fascinating to me. So, like a month ago, I started hearing about body doubling. Do you know about this?
Like a body double?
Sounds
Gross.
gross.
Like a body
Stand
double,
in.
like in a movie. That's what I
Cloning?
thought. Basically, yes. So, and my wife was the one who told me. She's like, "Hey, I need to do laundry. I don't want to do laundry. You don't have to do anything. Just come sit in here with me and
Oh, yeah.
read on your phone while I'm doing this job I hate." And I was like, I can just do it. And she's like, no, I don't want you to do it. I want to do it, but I can't make myself. You come in here with me. She's like, somebody
I know there's a thing, but
And it's
me
a
and
thing
Michaela
that
do that
people
all
have
the
been
time.
doing for
There's a
millennium. just
word
like
for it?
it's a thing that they're recommending. And I also read that like 40% of the things on TikTok about ADHD are just baloney. So I don't know, but it's a thing that they've done studies about, and they're saying that helps you like regulate your own body and say, oh, this person is here and they're doing that, and that's because like you get used to just sort of copying people around you, and that's how you figure out what to do, right? And so this is like a reminder for your unconscious brain what we're trying to do, which is do laundry.
I have a very strong opinion about we are so isolated in everything that we do, but I think we're made to
That's
be
the part.
in a community. So of course it makes sense that you would do better.
So
What were you going to say?
So Merv is a YouTube channel of a person.
Don't like this already. No.
Hold on. I work remote. I work from home. And I heard a presentation last week from other people who are working remote who are saying you can get on Zoom with people you work with and just be on Zoom and not talk to each other and just have like a work from home virtual webcam buddy just while you're hanging out. And I
We
was
did
like,
that over COVID.
You did that?
We did it over
Okay,
COVID,
So this is
my
not a new
team.
thing. So Merv has like weaponized it, and there's this like just a channel of videos being a very organized student and like opening their laptop and having their books and having their papers and just highlighting and taking notes. And teachers are saying that they put that sucker on the board and kids are like freaked out and it's weird, and then it actually works. And so please
Wow.
find Merv. See, I just want to know. I just want to know because it's the live ones. Now there are people on Twitch that are streaming. Like there's somebody in like Ukraine
Wow.
who's just going at it, and you can just watch him work from home while you work from home or whatever. That's a little, I don't know, because that's a real person. It's terrifying. It's like a security camera kind of thing. But a video.
I've never heard of that, but we did that over COVID. Would say, hey, let's do a work buddy thing. And then they would put music on in the background, and I would just mute the music because that distracted me. But to know that there were different people working at the same time as I was working, I did not feel as alone.
I think people would be horrified by my work habits. I don't even know if they would want to see like the horrible contortions I get my knees
that's
into and
so
stuff like
funny.
that.
I would not like that.
Yeah.
At all. I don't ever want to be on the phone or FaceTime with anybody ever. I hate
I hate
talking on the
people.
phone.
I don't want to connect.
I'm good talking to people. I just hate being on the phone. I despise it.
Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
The older I get, the more introverted I am. But the reason that I said I wouldn't like that, Michaela and I do that. Like if she takes a bath, I'll sit in there on the stool and we'll both just look at TikToks independently, or I'll be playing music and she'll we won't talk. We're just there together. When I do laundry, when I fold our laundry, I fold it in our living room with her.
Right.
Just what we do. But if I'm not with her, honestly, I'd rather be by myself.
Interesting.
Not because I don't like people. I just like being by myself.
Well,
I like not
is
having
that
to
your
talk.
question, extrovert, introvert?
Because there's one in the middle. I didn't know this.
Ambivert?
There's an ambivert section now, and I think they've decided that the Venn diagram is a diagram. There's a section where like you can get energy from being around people, but not for too long, and that's where I ended up because I'm like 2 or 3 days I'm good if it's the people I want to talk to, if it's things I want to do, and then I kind of need to not do that anymore. And I had a couple weeks of it, and I was beat.
I don't get energized from being around people. I spend energy.
Mm-hmm.
I get energy by not being around people. Yeah. So probably like at school,
That's
you're around people all day.
Mm-hmm.
I get home,
Yeah.
and I don't want to go anywhere.
When you're a teacher, you're kind of having to pretend to be an extrovert even if you're not, because they're going to talk to you.
Well, you have to have energy.
Yeah.
You have to have energy in the classroom.
I'm not saying like I hate people. I just prefer to be by
get it.
myself.
Oh, that's
Really, I prefer to just be Michaela and our baby now.
That's the dream.
that's great.
Hey, well, I'd love to hear some of the hacks that you've learned as a teacher.
When you go in, you have kind of been instilled that you are in charge. What you say goes. You're the teacher.
You don't write, I am the most important person in the room on the board every year at the start of school.
But you get there, and then you realize, hopefully, if I crack down on every infraction I see, you are going to be exhausted and hate your job. So I would say one of the biggest things that improved my time there was really kind of developing order of operations and
Systems.
picking some battles and not picking others. But 8th grade and 7th grade are two interesting ages because you've got some kids who are very childish, and they may be smaller in stature. They may be interested in more juvenile things. Then you've got some 8th graders who have a beard, and if they were held back or repeated, maybe can drive. And so you've got a real
wide range.
and that's not including 6th graders who I taught 6th grade my first year. I've never
cry.
seen so many
Just
tears
cry every
in my
day.
life.
Oh man.
So you've got such a huge array that a lot of times there's going to be, and then you got a lot of kids that have who knows what's gone on that morning before they got to school. So you do have you're going to have disagreements. As the teacher, a huge decider on where that disagreement goes is how you react and what you're willing to do versus what you're not willing to do.
That's really interesting because I was educated as a teacher too, elementary, and not once did they teach us anything about conflict
Oh no, they
resolution.
didn't teach us anything. No, that's trial by fire training. At least at Clemson they didn't.
Yeah, and
But you're telling me this is a part of your job. I mean,
learned
learning
things, yeah.
conflict resolution.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But in a
You're
perfect
gonna.
world, they're like, you're not going to have any conflict. You're the authority. Like, I think they assume, well, that's not.
That's
don't
not
want that.
real. Is it management that you didn't learn, or what do you think?
You don't. I mean, there's just not a class that says here's what you do. And this has been several years ago. Here's what you do when a kid says, "I'm not going to do this," and gets up and flips his desk and walks out of the room. There's
Physically flips the desk, right? We're not talking about like
the
a
kid flips his desk
metaphor.
over. Doesn't do anything to anybody else. It's
No
not.
crimes have been committed.
There's not a class that says, here's what you do when that happens. So when you have that happen, you then have to kind of deconstruct and say, well, what can I do to prevent that from happening ever again? I'll give you an example. I had a kid a few years ago, thought he could beat getting sick and stayed in his seat and did not beat getting sick and got sick right there at his desk,
Yep.
the floor and everywhere. So the first day of school, I tell people, if you have to throw up, you don't have to ask to leave. There's a trash can next to the door. Go in the hallway. I'll come find you.
Yep.
Because I'm going to ensure that doesn't happen again.
Right.
And there have been other disagreements. Generally it's concerned around a student either refusing to do work, or if there is some type of behavior discipline issue that the student then doesn't believe they were deserving of, or refutes your authority to do that.
It's not always conflict, right? So much as just complaining. I mean, it's just
Yeah, I just don't entertain that though.
yeah. There. I mean,
It's pushback though. None of that was in my class. Were in my classes.
And that, that was all things that were happening on when I was in middle school. There were probably some teachers that would say I participated
Again,
in some of that
Right.
in middle school.
We're
So I'm not
not-
trying
We're
to
not
disparage
blaming
anybody.
children
It's a spectrum.
or
It's a spectrum.
or professors for that
It is
matter.
the,
It's just
that's the 13, 14 is like the hardest age
It is.
ever. And, the world has not become like an easier place to be in. So they have, I've told my students, you guys have a much tougher life than I did in middle school. You got a lot more going on that you didn't ask for. So I would say overall they're doing very well for what's going on.
I think teaching is super unique in that you can learn how to do anything before you do the job, or you can learn on the job. But teaching, you really have to just do it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then
Oh, yeah.
next year. And I've said
Like being married.
I would have paid, right. I would have paid for another year of grad school to not have to be a first year teacher because it was the worst. Because I didn't know stuff.
But whatever your first year was would have been that.
I don't know.
If you take off
but
Monday, Tuesday's just Monday.
If they had just let me be like an intern and I had watched somebody, you don't think it would have? I don't know. I mean, they don't
You
do
student
that.
taught.
They don't do it. Yeah.
student teaching was what 6 weeks.
Well, see, now I did it different because I was dual certified.
Oh,
so I
so
did,
you did the whole year?
one semester in English and one semester in history.
They try. And for a while, I was like, man, like you were saying, I was not
But
ready
the kids
for this.
know. The kids know
The
you're
kids
not the
know.
teacher.
And that's the problem. Is
Yeah.
the kids know when you're new too, and they
Yeah.
know that they know things you don't. And then I knew, and I didn't. Nobody warned me about that, like you were saying. But when you started out, when you were a first year teacher, or are there things you look back now and you realize, man, if I had known this going in, because I know you can't
Oh, yeah.
cover, they
Definitely.
can't have a class where people just tell stories because it's so. They do those comparisons with air traffic controllers. You're making so many decisions about so many random things every
Right.
day, so many factors and variables. You can't predict stuff, but are there things that would have helped overall or might help people that are about to start
For
teaching?
sure, yeah. So one of them would have been that it takes two to tango. You can't argue if one of you just says, no, I'm not doing that.
I'm not arguing with you.
And
That's
I'll
brilliant.
say that, yeah. a lot of times my attitude has used to have been, I may not win this argument, but I will make you regret having it with me.
Oh.
That's not a way to
War
go
of
about it.
attrition
Wow.
is a valid classroom management strategy.
So I mean, you really verbally just become a pacifist. That's to me has made my life much easier. Now that doesn't, I'm still very firm. I can be very loud. I can be very commanding in a room, but I'm not going to. We're just not going to argue. That's not something we're going to do. That was a big thing. The second big thing was, and I taught English initially, and English has a lot more testing that goes on than social studies. They have placement tests for English composition courses. They have entrance exams. In the middle school level, they have advanced or GT classes. They don't for social
does GT
studies.
mean?
Gifted and talented. So that's like the AP track, I would assume.
Honors.
Yeah. So it's just the format of what you're teaching is much less quantifiable in history than it is in English, and then even more so in math than in English. And
Wait, hold on. You say that again. It's more quantifiable.
so
than which one?
the results of the students' production is much more quantifiable in math and then in English, and then I think almost less of the course subjects in history, because
It's more subjective.
you're demonstrating the knowledge of like themes
Gotcha.
and overall systems and ideologies.
I thought you were saying the other way.
No, and in English, if you write a paper, I can count how many errors you make. In math, even more so. So it's much more kind of
You got to support your claim.
it's just more qualitative
Objective,
in
yeah.
social studies.
So how
Subjective.
So what were you going to say about exams?
So what I learned, and in English, you have like your MAP scores and SC Ready scores, and those can be like determinations of how well are you doing your job. When I started teaching social studies, and there wasn't the looming kind of, well, we got this test coming up, and you had a little bit more creativity of how am I going to deliver this information. Because, again, when you're teaching the Raven, it's been analyzed for so long, there's only so much you can say about it. And you have to say it the right way because that's the way it would be presented on the test.
Oh, wow.
So one thing that really became clear to me, and this will kind of have two sides to it, 'cause I'll say something and then have to defend it. The content that I teach kids, we're about to do we're starting the American Revolution on Wednesday. One of the most important things that you need to know about as far as America's history. Probably
Kind
the
of
number
where
one
it
thing.
started, yeah.
That's not the most important thing that will go on in my classroom. I have discovered it is exponentially more important for like these kids at the end of the school year, if they passed, if they failed, if they liked me or not, to say, hey, Mr. Lyles, he cared about me. When he corrected me from doing something, he wasn't mean. He didn't belittle me. He told me, hey, this is just not something we're going to accept. And he was fair. And, that if a kid has something going on, that they say, I'm going to talk to Mr. Lyles about it. That's the most important thing that happens. And, there's probably, you get to some higher level classes, that may not always be the case. But when you teach, social studies kind of is just all of the kids dispersed however they need to be so their other classes fit the schedule. So you have, a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And it's important for a kid to feel comfortable and say, hey, Mr. Lyles, my parents are getting a divorce. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. And for me to say, hey, don't worry about this. Mm-hmm. You can go talk to the guidance counselor. Mm-hmm. That's the most important thing I do. Mm-hmm. And that would have made, it wouldn't have made my job easier, but it would have made it much more rewarding if I had known that at the beginning. Because a lot of times as teachers, you are the most educated person in the room. You certainly know the most about the content, but there's going to be times when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And, there'll be times where I give the kids a test and it's not the right stuff on the test. I've got the answers in the wrong order.
We got to pull back and punt, yeah.
And
they love that, though.
But that's you got to say, hey, kids, that's on me.
That's on me.
Messed up.
Man, that will build so much trust.
You're a real person, yeah. And like even when you have a child, like my kids, they love, and I sometimes I do it. I don't want to say I do it on purpose, but I definitely lean into it.
where if you give them an easy win and it doesn't cost you anything, to just say, hey,
Yeah.
I goofed it up. Like, we will go get ice cream, actually. And they just lose their minds because you're going to Disney World or something.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
a good, I think that might be the most, like, the best transferable skill from teaching. I didn't even know it. I didn't know that people didn't do that. And I didn't realize I was doing it. But you definitely do it. It's just like trying to connect with people outside of what you're actually doing there. Like, really none of that stuff, none of the job stuff. It's
That's
just
right.
the people stuff, the soft
It's the
skills.
people stuff.
And I didn't know people don't do that. And so if you can do that.
And that's what's missing, I think.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, you said that you wanted to do what you were passionate about and what you were good at. What I'm good at is, you know, I'm a good public speaker. I'm a good writer. So that makes me a better teacher. Not better than other teachers. It makes me more suited to be a teacher.
Suited to the job.
But what I'm really good at is managing people and sales. Those are my two strengths.
And that's so interesting, and you're in teaching.
and
But
I
it's
learned-
persuasive.
Yeah, and I learned those skills before I started teaching when I was coaching football. Because coaching is much more managerial. I'm not doing the drills. I'm facilitating the drills. So I learned how to corral people, how to motivate people, how to get people to believe in me and in what we're doing. And with some of the teams I coached, even when we were not going to win, we were aware of that. But to get kids to really like lay their body on the line when they're not going to win, that's what I learned in coaching.
Are there any other secrets? Are there any, things that have just little known truths that have just revolutionized how you do your job?
I would say one thing that I started doing recently over like the last couple of years, and I will say this, I coached for 13 years. I coached football and I coached wrestling for a few years. I was unadvisedly hired to coach basketball for 1 year, which bless their hearts for having
Adam Sandler movie of a season right there. That's
Semi-Pro's The Extent, and The Last Dance. That's my basketball knowledge. But I
More than
enjoyed
what
it,
I
and
have.
I managed, and I got assistant coaches who knew the game, and so I took care of all of the secretarial and managerial roles, and I let them coach the basketball, and we won a few games that year. But one thing, when I quit coaching, and I stopped coaching because I'd gotten married, and I was starting this doctoral program, and then we were also having a baby. And football takes a lot of time, and I no longer had that time. It was good for me when I wasn't married because it kept me doing something productive instead of doing something maybe that wouldn't have been good for me. And I made some friends while I was coaching that, I still love to this day, like huge roles in my life. But when I stopped coaching, I realized I love football and I love winning. I hate losing. I hate losing more than I have emotion for anything else in this world. I hate losing. I told Michaela on our very first date, I will never let you win at anything. And I never have.
And she fell in love with them
When
right
she
then
beats
and
me,
there.
it's because she's better than me at
Oh
that.
man, are you competitive? You're not very competitive, right? But you don't want to. If you're going to do it, you're going to win.
I am fine with never competing with anybody. But if I do, I'll die
if you make
trying
me do
to win.
this. Yeah.
This
Or I'll
is the
try
secret?
avoiding to lose. But when I quit coaching football, that relieved so much, tension of not even the fear of losing. Because there's some games you go into and you're well aware that, one side is going to come out better than the other side. But it's that feeling of when you look at the scoreboard and you have less points, that feeling of just, I want to just rip my hair out. And so when I quit coaching football and I just do the football games on the radio now, I'm not at practice. I'm not in the weight room. I'm not calling the plays. I'm just getting to watch football and talk about it with my friends on the radio. I became I really believe, so much more approachable at school because I was so, dedicated to, we got to get this done. We're gonna have a good game today. That I at times forgot, this probably isn't a normal way to look at things.
That's so
It should be
interesting.
okay to just, have fun. And so I think a lot of times people really need to examine themselves and, kind of look at, well, what am I doing? What am I not doing? And then what are those adding to or taking away from my life? So I thought, Well, football is giving me like an access to the game I love that I'll never be able to play again. I'm already at work. So, I mean, and I love doing it. It made perfect sense. But when I looked at it and realized, like, hey, this is like, I can't stand something that happens several times a year. And
If you
I
play
have
for if you go to a really good team, it's probably more fun, don't you think? Like if you,
no, because you see,
the pressure's still there.
it's not winning that I'm just over the moon. I love winning.
Oh, you don't get the high, just
no,
the low.
no.
Oh,
I just
Just the
can't.
deep
I just don't want to
no.
lose.
Okay. So you're just trying to maintain a 0 and not go.
Well, I mean, obviously, the only way to not lose
Yeah.
is
Is to
win.
win. But you're just
not
wanting to
losing is the
avoid those-
motivation. I hate to lose.
that sounds horrible.
I don't want to. If I beat you, I don't feel better than you.
Yeah.
I was better than you at this time.
But if I beat you.
But if you beat me, you're better than I am,
Okay.
and
Oh,
I
no.
can't stand that.
Oh, no.
So
So it was hitting. It was,
Oh, you
it
need to
was
talk to
hitting at
somebody
your
about that.
identity.
it was really, it was really
Yeah.
getting to me from
It's 11 years.
when I started at 8 until I quit coaching at 29. Like, that was all I had
Part
done.
of your identity.
And so I wasn't thrilled about quitting.
Were you miserable that entire time?
No, it was, as you get older and you think about things that are important, like we said, it really became, hey, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
And so when I did quit, though, I mean, God really just orchestrated it to where I quit at the time I was supposed to, even though I didn't want to. That is why I don't worry as much as I used to, and that is why I am continuously trying to worry less about my income and what am I going to do for the rest of my life. Because I have things like that. When I get out of my own way, I don't ever worry.
Is what I'm hearing you say. The secret is to constantly give yourself the opportunity to reevaluate your values and make sure that what you're doing
yeah.
and how you're using your time is not just defining you, but you're defining it.
Yeah.
So if you've been doing your book for 20 years, you don't have to keep doing your
You
book.
don't have to keep doing it.
Yeah,
okay.
no,
Because they've got a coach, right? Like they're still there.
Like I was convinced all of the things I am now, I will be when I die, and none of the things I am not, I will never be those things. And I worked really hard to make that true. And when I turned 30, I had, again, some real divine orchestration of things going on in my life, meeting the right people at the right time, being in the right place at the right time, none of which was my doing, which really, opened my mind and my eyes and my heart that I was so much more than who I was being. And I feel like since that day, I've changed every day, in ways that I'm not even aware of. So I think probably not just for teachers, just for life, the opening was the best thing I ever did.
I think that's real good advice.
And thankfully, my wife stuck with me for the first few years when I hadn't done that. I was probably not a very pleasant person all the time.
I've come to a similar conclusion, but it's interesting. People our age, I feel like that's happening to a lot of people. For a lot of people, they're going through a similar kind of process of like, do I really need to be doing what I've been doing for 15 years? Can I do something different?
Yeah.
What's this going to be like? And not everybody's a fan. Like some
Well,
folks
change
get
is
really
hard.
I think people see that you're like, oh, everything's going to be different, and then they're like, well, are you done yet? Like, when are you? Haven't you?
Yeah.
I don't think you'll be done till you die.
You can't be done. Well, I'd be bored. Yeah.
I can remember our grandma saying, and our pa saying after she died, that it takes your whole life to learn how to live. And older I get, more truth I see in that.
That's true.
It's just, I can tell you thousands of things where because I shut up and got out of the way, I was in the right place at the right time.
And you're open to growing.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks a bunch. Sounds like
Thank
a
you.
good plan for anybody who wants to be a teacher or anybody who wants to do something else, because you've got a broad range of
Yeah.
of stuff that you can do.
Yeah, I'll come talk about anything. I've had a whole bunch of jobs.
Love it. Well, thanks, David.
Thank
Are
you.
you hiring?
I think every school in the United States of America will hire.
Just walk into a school and
No, don't do that.
Well, okay. Yeah. Walk up to the
Don't
front
do
door of a
that.
school.
Call
the
the
school.
HR department of your school
Send
district.
an email and ask politely.
There you go.
Don't post it on Twitter. Don't go into a school. Good.
we taught at the same school, and I was starting at a new building with new, administration and everything. But I'd been teaching for a few years by then, and he was starting a new job as a teacher, first teaching job. But he had student taught at the same school, so he knew all the people and he knew where the bathrooms were, and I knew like how to be a teacher, and so I was able to help him in a lot of ways. Like I wish somebody had been able to help me, because I knew what somebody wouldn't know, right? And then he knew all the stuff that it was a good fit because we had some shared experience, and he was way more like excited about meeting people than I was, and so he introduced me to everybody. So
Wow. It's funny, some of the things he was mentioning, and some of it I don't know how much of it is middle school versus I was trained as an elementary school teacher, and a lot of my experience was either elementary or high school, not middle school. But also the male perspective of being a teacher. Both of you guys are male, and
still male,
most
not a teacher,
of the,
but yes.
but some of the things that he was bringing up, I was kind of surprised that he wasn't talking about some of the organizational stuff, of teaching that was so big for me.
When I found out I had to do a bulletin board every quarter, I was like, can I pay someone to do it?
Whereas I love that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I if you were elementary, yeah, you have to, because you have to do one every week or two, right? It's insane. And
well, I was the specials teacher.
Oh my gosh. No.
But it was part of the fun.
Right.
To me, there's a lot of stuff that I'm realizing now that it'll be fun to get an elementary teacher or even a high school teacher next to talk to about their experience. But it was very interesting what he was talking about with middle schoolers, specifically when he was talking about how do you adjust your management style essentially to what their needs are, that it's not just about what they're learning, it's about making sure that there's a safe place for them.
Yeah.
I do think that that's general for all teaching, but maybe especially for middle school, because you're just going through so much.
And I would tell children, I've heard David tell children this, like, nobody likes middle school. It's like, this is it gets better. Just hang in there. Let's get through this. And that was that, like, we're all in the same boat approach. I didn't mean for it to be like meaningful. It was just the only way I could get through it. I could like make it work in my head. And I think kids appreciated it because, you get to be a real person. It's more, I don't know, you're just on the same team that way.
Yeah.
And especially when you're 12 or 13 and you feel like there's nobody on your team, like it's just hard for everybody that age, pretty much.
I also thought it was interesting. He has a totally different approach than I do personally for building trust, and
he's never done I bet he's never made a bulletin board in his life, like not a single one.
But even where I was going with that was he was talking about how you're not going to like me if you don't like me on day one. You're not going to like me at the end of the year.
Oh, and your approach is like,
I build
give me
trust.
2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm definitely not one of those teachers that doesn't smile through till December.
Do people still do that? Do people still? I should have asked him.
I hope not.
Do teachers still tell new teachers not to smile until Christmas? Because that was a thing. Like, even when I started in 2012, they were saying, like, you got to be really. And I would be serious. Just tell me this: as an elementary teacher, you probably didn't have to be serious real often.
Honestly, if you were, they lose
didn't
interest.
know what to do. Yeah.
I feel like it's more important. What I appreciated what he was saying was be sincere. Be sincere from day one till the end of the last day of school. Be sincere. Be who you are. And I think I agree with that 110%. So
any job where you can just be yourself, for sure. I don't think it would be safe for your personal safety to be like trying to meet the energy of middle schoolers because of how nuts.
Well, their emotions change. Their energy levels literally change by the hour. So maybe it's different.
I don't know. Maybe so. We could find out.
Well, are there any things that you, as a former teacher, would add to David's list of things that are kind of behind the scenes or even secrets that you've discovered?
No, I told him all my secrets already.
Really?
So he already knew everything, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I like my job now so much. I miss some kids a lot. And some of them still email me. And some kids asked me to come to graduation last year from when I started there.
Amazing.
It was really cool. I like having, just knowing that they're doing well. That was sweet. but there's a lot I do not miss too. It's a hard job. And I do feel like though that if you can do that thing where you be yourself and like make that kind of fit in, you can't necessarily always make the job fit to what you want it to be. Like teaching is pretty flexible depending on where you are, like we said. But if you can like get those things to be cohesive where you don't have to leave a bunch of who you are at home and go to work and be somebody else, I think that's good for any job.
I agree with that. And it is true that is exactly a strength of teaching.
Yeah.
You can literally show your personality in what you hang up. You can show your personality in how you joke with the kids.
I think too with teachers, it's like no matter what you do or how you like who you are, right? The meanest ladies that I've worked with that other teachers didn't want to talk to if they didn't have to, there would be at least 1 or 2 kids every year that love them to death.
Absolutely.
Because their mom would, I don't know, was working or let them do whatever they wanted. And they really needed somebody to just
Give them structure.
have the rules. And so I think anything you bring to the table, somebody's going to connect to it because you have 100 new people every year to meet. And
That's right.
a lot of jobs, you're kind of stuck with who you're working with and they might like you and they might not. And if you mess it up, there's only 5 of you. So
That was literally one of my favorite things of teaching is getting to know personally really well all of those people.
because there's just so many. If you go to work and you're there for a shift, right? Or you're at the office from the time they open to the time they close, you're there all day. You're doing the same kind of things over and over and over again. And after that first 2 weeks or 6 weeks or 90 days, you there's no surprises usually, right?
Right.
And if there is, you just ask the person next to you or somebody who's in charge and they will tell you. But school is like 17,000 procedures and systems all day.
Yes.
And the feeling of like everybody knows this but me is the worst
It's
part.
so horrible.
And there's no way to get around it because everywhere does it a little bit different for
Yes.
some reason. There have been places I've looked at applying to, but they were asking for really specific like software experience or like knowledge of this thing that, well, I know something similar to that. And I bet nobody knows all those things the way, because anybody they hire, you're going to come in and you're going to have done a version of that,
Exactly.
but nobody's done exactly what they do because they have some weird thing they've put together.
Yeah. I've started noticing that because I help people find jobs. I'm a career counselor. And so or career coach, however you want to call it.
Career dictator. I like that
Dictator.
better, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yes. And some job applications have now started putting, if you fit the criteria at 65%, we would love for you to apply.
Wow.
And then it says that stats are saying that women and people of minorities will oftentimes, if they don't fit it to 65%, they will not apply. So then you're left with these very courageous white males who will raise their hand for these jobs.
Bless their hearts.
And then they get the jobs.
Those guys.
And it's not their fault. It's just that we
That's
need
how
to be
brave.
but we didn't know. We thought that we needed to fit the job description. And
that's what you think. That's why have it. But I guess
It's a wish list. The job description is a wish list.
I'm glad that people are acknowledging and like publicizing, like, hey, we know you don't know all these things. That's exciting that you could get it, but it makes sense because even if you've done it somewhere else, even if you've done it for 10 years, they're going to do it. You're going to have to start over. It's going to be different.
That's right.
So it's encouraging.
Yeah.
Also, it feels like we should have been doing that differently this whole time. Like people should have been more, not honest. It's not dishonest to say we wish you were good at these things.
Right.
But yeah, I would have thought that if I don't know this, there's no point in me trying to work there. So.
And especially that difference between 65% and 100% is a lot.
Yeah.
So to have some people
That's a D
going
average,
for
yeah.
it and they're only at 65, but they're getting the job, like to me, we just need to know that going in, that you're not going to fit the job description completely 100%. And if you are, I would actually encourage you to shoot higher.
What? Shoot higher?
Shoot higher for a different job. Like if you are applying for an entry-level job that you could nail 100% of that thing, it's probably because you are qualified for more.
So you're saying you want that. You want some space for things you don't know when you're looking
Absolutely.
for a job.
I would
which
say
is exciting.
because I know how job descriptions are written now and that they don't expect you to be 100% of that job description. Obviously, they would love for that. But if you are, you have 5 to 8 years of experience in this thing, and you also know this program, and you also know this program, and you also have this, I would actually want you to, that probably means that you're at the top of that job category, and maybe you're not going to get paid what you're worth. Wow. So you might want to shoot higher.
That's a really interesting, that's crazy because I thought you wanted to like get your levels up and then, go find a job that meets that level. But you're saying like you actually want to go in where you're not there yet.
Where you don't
and then
fit
you
the
have
whole
room
thing.
to.
Yeah.
And that's like, do all career counselors know that? Or is that a service
That may be a Jessica Campbell special.
Wow. Okay. We'll
sure.
see how it plays out.
I do know that we just need to keep growing. And I do think that we all have transferable skills, and some of us are going to be better at some things than other people who apply, and at least give the HR or the HR manager or the hiring committee an opportunity to weed you out. Like, raise your hand, actually apply for that thing.
No, that sounds horrible. I'm back to being mad about it now. This is the
No, I think you need to do it. I think people need to do it, and then they start seeing more variety, and they see what they actually can get for that job.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, that was fun.
So much fun. Big thanks to
Talked
David
to a
Lyles.
Teacher. Yeah, we talked to teacher David Lyles. We talked about teaching. We talked about coaching. We talked about the Grateful Dead at one point.
True. Somebody I need to go
Some
listen
other
to.
Stuff. You're not gonna like it.
Oh dang!
You're not gonna
My
like
little
it. Start watching some of those
homeschooler.
movies. Yeah, don't go in.
Homeschool
Don't
mindset.
lead with that.
Oh man.
Homeschool mindset. Is that what you said?
I think so.
Oh, that's. Where's my intern? Have we got an intern yet?
Intern, please apply.
During this episode,
If you
how many emails?
if you only are
you're
qualified
still
for
listening.
65% of this job description, please apply.
So that's only 2/3. So you could just be homeschooled and nerdy and not actually
Good
know
at the
anything
job.
about what we're doing. Yeah,
Perfect.
there you go.
Apply.
It'd be great. If you're still here, if you've heard all this and you haven't already emailed somebody, what are you doing? Why
Yes.
are you not?
Well, if you want to hear more like this episode, I think you should subscribe, number one, to follow all the episodes that are coming out. If you want to become more of an insider of Job Smarts and really get some really good connections with us and more opportunities to hear from our guests, and also connect with a bunch of other resources and things, come follow us on Patreon. You are going to love it.
If I'd known you could get a job that you would get a D in doing that job, boy,
Yeah.
that's encouraging.
Right. But also there's more skills to actually like getting through the
Yeah, for sure.
interviews
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all that. And all of that we can help you with when you subscribe to our Patreon. So love it. Hope that you can come back next time.
We'll be here. Awesome. Thanks a bunch. Thanks to David. Thanks, Jessica.
Thanks to Rob.
Thanks to you guys. Thanks to our intern, wherever he or she is out there.
We need you.